Now, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says that his troops are progressing to the next phase of the offensive in Gaza as they are pressing on with the ground operations against Hamas militants. Speaking to a press briefing in Tel Aviv, Netanyahu warned Israelis to expect a long and hard military campaign. Now, for more on this situation in Gaza, I'm joined by Dr. Firoz Osman, an executive member of Media Review Network. Very good afternoon to you, Doc. Thank you for joining us. We certainly appreciate it. Netanyahu, they're just being very clear that it's going to be a very long and hard military operation happening in Gaza. Now, while he's been very clear about that, would you have any perception as to the scope of this military action and how far we can expect it to actually happen in terms of its determination to get rid of Hamas?
This is a misnomer, firstly. It is not a battle against Hamas. It is a battle against the entire Palestinian people. The objective in the Zionist project, right from the very inception of its creation in 1948, was to get rid of the Palestinian people and usurp its land. So yes, it's a long, hard battle, as he said, because of the incredible resistance of the Palestinians over a period of 70 years. In fact, even longer, 100 years, when the Palestinian people rose up against the British first, and then in 1948, when 750,000 people were removed from the lands, again in 1967, which they call the Naksa, and we see the horrific crimes that is being perpetuated by the Zionists again now. So it is, as Netanyahu says, an extremely long, hard battle for them because of the incredible resistance of the people of Palestine, and it is not going to be easy for the Zionists to repeat what they did in 1948 because of the determination of the Palestinians to stay on their land.
The media has been trying to play an important role, as they have, in trying to bring the story of what's happening to Gaza and Israel, into perspective for people to understand what is happening there. But we also know that there's been somewhat of a media blackout, particularly for international media in Gaza. A lot of what we're seeing really is from citizens there that are taking footage with their cell phones and trying to alert the world as to what is happening. What are some of your thoughts around that as part of an executive member of the Media Review Network?
Firstly, we need to separate the media. It is the Western media that has been proclaiming the Zionist narrative all the time. We see, for example, when, they showed images, and then they didn't really show the images, but they just repeated that, 40 babies were beheaded. That never happened. And of course, even President Biden took the view that that they were raped and the Palestinians did that. It never happened. So it is important for us to have social media online and of course other media such as Al Jazeera that has been showing what has really been happening and the horrific stories that have been emerging from there. So it is part of the Zionist plan in order to have a total blackout of the region so that they can go on committing their genocide, virtually a Holocaust in that particular part of the world. And it is really baffling that victims of the so-called Holocaust that happened in Germany are now perpetuating these crimes against humanity. We have been witnessing every day these images of the genocide. It has horrified the people, and I think the United Nations resolution said it very clearly that these crimes and war crimes that have been committed by Israel must come to an end, and thanks to the media in many ways that has exposed the genocide that is occurring there.
Oh, indeed. I mean, most of them, well, some of them have become collateral damage in this conflict that is happening there. Most of them have lost their lives and their family members. I want to touch on the issue of the humanitarian response that we've seen happening across the world from the United Nations. Now, initially, we've been hearing quite a bit of a talk and mediation resolutions in trying to cease fire. Just from my observation, that seems to have it's a bit quiet now with regards to that end of things. Humanitarian responsibilities and trying to strike a balance between the military action. How do you think that can be achieved?
Until and unless Israel behaves with impunity and without any consequences, it does not care two hoots about the international community. In that it has the backing of the United States of America. We see Biden, we see Macron that have gone there, and of course Sunak from Britain, in support of the genocide that has been occurring there. So the United Nations has pleaded, and we can see with overwhelming majority, for this humanitarian corridor to come through. But unfortunately, as long as Israel has the backing of the great powers and in its support, it will simply dismiss what he is doing with impunity. And that is our fault. The so-called international community, which is really the Western world order, has allowed Israel to behave in the way, and now we have to deal with this monster that is committing horrific crimes in Gaza, which is really not even a open-air prison, as has been mentioned. It is a concentration camp that is being pummeled by F-15s, F-16s tanks, are largely defenseless people, and we witness this. So we plead for the world to really put pressure on Israel to stop it, and I think South Africa can play a leading role in this, because we see the parallels of the apartheid entity. In fact, it has been described by our own leadership that it is worse than whatever we experience. And
Dr. Osman, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Apologies for cutting you off there. Thank you so much for your insights. We certainly appreciate it. Of course, a lot still needs to be discussed with regards to all the moving hands that are happening in this catastrophic